Welcome back into the Pig Trail Show and welcome to another Hog Hoops Report. As always, that is Kevin McPherson. I am Jacob Morris. Kevin, we are in the middle of May. We've got, 5-6 months until the season starts. We still got plenty of hoop stuff to talk about. And right now, we are in the midst of recruiting season for the Hogs. And that is a year-round process for the man himself, John Calipari. And the Hog fans and Cal himself are going to get quite the news bump, either positive or negative, on Thursday with J.J. Andrews. We've talked about this one a lot for months. Thursday, May 15th, J.J. Andrews down to three final choices: Missouri, LSU, and Arkansas. An in-state kid, an Arkansas legacy, going to make his decision. This is a recruitment you've had your eyes on for a while, and Arkansas is going to get its answer this Thursday in Little Rock.
ESPN ranks him number 22, so a top 25 player in that 2026 class, 6'6" wing, probably somewhere between 220 and 230 already. Maybe they list him at 215. This guy's built. I mean, he looks like a college veteran the way he's put together. And he's, he's a kind of grinder for a top 25 guy. The blue collar stuff, always talk about how, he's a determined competitor. And there's just not a lot of fluff to his game. And he plays to win. I really like J.J. Andrews. Apparently, so do Arkansas, LSU, and Missouri. That's where it's, like you said, it's down to those three. And I've said this for a while. You mentioned the legacy. His dad, Sean Andrews, an All-American lineman at Arkansas back in the day, All-Pro in the NFL. He's being an in-state kid. His dad, was an in-state, came out of Camden. And so, that plus the Calipari track record with high-level recruits, the greatest recruiter of high school players of all time. I mean, everything lines up for this to be a no-brainer Arkansas. But I've always cautioned, look, this is the era of NIL. And Arkansas has prioritized J.J. Andrews. The staff feels like it has. I'm sure they've got a nice NIL package together for him. But if for any reason Missouri or LSU are considerably stronger on that note, and that NIL offer will always correlate to what the envisioned role is, even in year one. Yeah. And what, are you the guy we're building around, or what kind of emphasis are they putting on you as a top priority? And so, anything could upset the apple cart if Arkansas is not competitive in that aspect. Everything else, it blows it out of the water. It's Arkansas. I've got a couple of sources that believe it's going to be Arkansas. I believe that it will be too, if not for something like that. And, there's a few more days left for one of those teams, LSU or Missouri, if they're not already in the strongest position NIL-wise and projected role for him wise. They can certainly change that. They have a few more days left. Outside of that, I expect it to be Arkansas. And so if it is, Calipari gets his first high school recruit in this third recruiting cycle at Arkansas, class of 2026. And Andrews could end up being another McDonald's All-American. He's going to have a chance for that. That list usually comes out in January, so we'll have to wait for that. But he's getting it out of the way. The spring and summer basketball play is his last circuit on the Nike EYBL. And he's getting this out of the way before even that, let alone before his senior season of high school. Two-time state champion at Little Rock Christian Academy. He recently announced he'll be returning. There were some rumors maybe he was going to relocate and transfer to a high school in Northwest Arkansas. And he's come out, at least for now, and said, no, I'm staying put here at Little Rock Christian Academy. And that's where the announcement will be made on his high school campus on Thursday, May 15th. And again, it could be Arkansas, probably will be. And Jacob, again, that'll be Calipari's first splash in 2026. You've got fans still kind of looking around, waiting to see how does he finish this current roster for year two and the second recruiting cycle. And we may have to wait a while to see what, if anything's added. But to get the second in-state guy, if that's how it plays out with Andrews, we know Isaiah Seeley's already committed, signed, and on his way to the Hill later this month when they move in that class of 2025. So Andrews could be that next in-state piece, and fans will love him. If he's a Razorback, they're going to love the passion and desire that J.J. Andrews plays with. When you look at guys like Adou Thero, Carter Knox, kind of in that same mold, that jumbo wing kind of guy that just plays relentlessly attacking. Even Billy Richmond III, right? That's how he plays.
Mm-hmm.
So he'd be the next in line. It's a perfect kind of player for Calipari's system.
Yeah, you've used the adjective, the descriptor, whatever you want to say, relentless a couple times with him, and I just think it's perfect. Razorback fans, if you haven't watched a highlight reel, whatever of JJ Andrews, do yourself a favor, go to YouTube, find it because he is aggressive in every capacity. He's a no nonsense player, and he plays with a relentless level that is just it's fun to watch and one that Cal could use, that Arkansas could use as well. You've hinted at it there with NIL, everything, all the above, you sound pretty confident. I'm going to make you put a number on it. 1 to 10, where do you fall in terms of Thursday, 4 p.m., the Little Rock Christian Gym, that Razorback hat or shirt or whatever it's going to be? JJ Andrews puts it on, and he ultimately chooses to be a Hog. Where do you fall 1 to 10?
I'm 8.5 to 9.
Okay.
Again,
Yeah.
I leave a puncher's chance for Mizzou or LSU, which has really stepped up its
Yes.
basketball NIL. Dennis Gates makes promises. He landed the top player out of the state, Kanner Boateng, out of the class of 2024. He didn't quite have the role I think that was envisioned for him, but he also didn't enter the transfer portal. He stuck around. And I know that Gates is trying to win all of these Arkansas highest level player recruiting battles. So I leave an outside chance that if they're not there now with the offer, that they step it up enough to make that interesting. But as of now, I think it heavily favors Arkansas. And again, if I did one of those crystal balls because of the NIL era, I don't feel comfortable being
Yeah.
absolute about it. So I won't go there. But I feel good about it, barring some last minute upset with something that it's an offer that's too good to turn down.
Yeah, 8.5 from Kevin McPherson on JJ Andrews, but you're right. There is no certainty in the NIL era. Will be interesting to see Thursday, May 15th, 4 p.m. Little Rock Christian Gym. JJ Andrews deciding between Missouri, Arkansas, and LSU. Obviously, a major target for the Hogs. We got much more coming up on the show. We're going to talk Razorback Road Show, recruitment period as well, some Pearl Hogs as well. But first, let's take a quick break. All right, back here on the Hog Hoops Report, that is Kevin McPherson. I am Jacob Morris. And Kevin, we teased it a little bit. The Razorback Roadshow getting underway. That it's a big week. We've got JJ Andrews May 15th, May 12th through 15th, the Roadshow as well. All types of coaches making the trip throughout the state. And Cal's going to be a part of that as well. And Arkansas Men's Hoops going to be a part of it as well.
Second year in a row since he was hired. He did it in year one. I think this is a really good thing, this outreach to fans around the state. It's just good to do this. And it's interesting the way that this is going to run. Calipari will be in Little Rock, the Little Rock part of it, on Wednesday, the 14th. The very next day is where Andrews here in Little Rock makes his commitment announcement. And then on Friday, the 16th, Calipari, one of the stops is the Memphis area. Well, that's the beginning of the first live evaluation period for coaches in this spring and summer grassroots circuit is that weekend. And the Nike EYBL, which is the biggest of all of them, the session play is in Memphis that weekend. So it's a perfect stop for him because he's going to be there. I'm going to be there. I've got my meeting credentials for that. So I'll be there. I'm sure I'll see Cal again, like I saw him on the road last year in Texas at the Adidas circuit for the first live eval session last year. But it's a busy week and it's strategic. It seems very strategic when and where the stops are for Calipari. There's always more than one thing that he's doing. And so the road show's important, but he's got real, as it applies to his roster and his recruiting and in the future, there's real application to his moves and where he's going to be in these next few days. And so, again, people are sitting around waiting to see what happens with this final roster. But you got to remember, Cal plays 5D chess when it comes to recruiting. And he's looking at everything and taking care of business on every level, the present and the future. And don't forget, he's still popping around and showing up at some of these NBA playoff scenarios where he's got players on both teams, because that's part of your recruiting as well as the past, right? You're like, hey, look at me. Remember this guy? He's going to be the league MVP this year. And, oh yeah, by the way, this guy just got a max contract. This guy, that's who he is. So he seams and weaves He weaves all of these things that he does in brilliantly. I think he's the best to do it, man. So there's plenty to pay attention to, even when you think, oh, we got to wait for a while to see what shakes out for this current roster. Man, think bigger than that. He's playing past, present, and future with his moves, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, he is a recruiter in every capacity, the best to ever do it, and he's well familiar with situations like this. You're exactly right. Let's talk a little bit about the first live evaluation period recruiting wise coming up this weekend. We were talking before we hopped on here. Obviously, like you're saying, everybody focused on this year's roster, but you got to think 2026. JJ Andrews, got to think 2027 as well. That's going to be no different for Cal, this staff. What are you hearing target-wise for the Hogs as this evaluation period kind of approaches, and where are the Hogs looking in that capacity?
Yeah, I mean, they're recruiting players. When you look at 2026, several of the top 10 rated 5-star guys, and really 2 or 3 of those guys have made the decision not to play in the spring and summer grassroots circuits.
Mm-hmm.
Guys like Tyron Stokes, who plans to visit Arkansas. Mika Miernan, who already visited Arkansas. He's not taken part so far, was part of that Brad Bill elite team that won in the 16 level last year, the Peach Jam, along teammates with JJ Andrews. He's another guy Arkansas is recruiting, not out there, but there's several who will be. A couple that the staff was out to see Chin Coleman last week at Archbishop Stepanak up in New York, where Boogie Flam came out of. A couple of 6'11", 7-foot big men with guard skills. The Ratliff twins, Darius and Adonis, they play for the PSA Cardinals, so they'll be participating this weekend in Memphis. That's the plan. The coaching staff will be able to look at those guys, including Calipari. We might see some offers extended once Calipari's able to put eyes on them, but that's just 2 of many. Jalen Montnati, that plays in the Mocan Elite program on the Nike YBL circuit, a top 25 star in the 2026 class. Arkansas has been recruiting him. He's been on campus for unofficial visits. Look for Arkansas to be out to see him. JJ Andrews, assuming he's a committed Hog, let's see what happens. Again, no guarantees there, but he'll be playing. He's still with Brad Bill Elite. I've not heard anything that he's going to shut it down. So let's say he's a fresh Arkansas commitment. Calipari and the coaching staff will be able to see him play in Memphis. Now, Adidas, Under Armour, Next Pro 16, all of these major grassroots circuits will also be having competition through this first live eval session at various places around the country. And so Arkansas's coaching staff won't just be solely concentrated on Memphis. They'll fan out. They'll hit some of these other spots. Arkansas is recruiting Alex Constanza, a top 20 rated 5-star out of Florida that plays on the Next Pro 16 circuit. It's an up-and-coming circuit. Chris Sinak Jr. was the top player on that circuit last year. Jacob Lanier playing on the Under Armour circuit right now. Arkansas class of 2026, an in-state kid that Arkansas keeps tabs on. They may when they go check out that circuit. So it's all over the place. The coaches will be coming and going. I'm assuming the heaviest concentration, though, of Arkansas staff, when we look back on the totality of the weekend, probably most of it will be in that Memphis event for the Nike EYBL, which is still the number 1 circuit in the country.
Lots to be excited about in terms of 26, 27. There's so many directions this class can go, the classes can go for the. And I just, as a Razorback fan, I don't know how you can't get excited when you start going down the list at all of these kids that Arkansas is in the conversation for. And we don't need to hit it over and over and over again, but it's the type of recruiting chops that Cal brings, and you're going to be in the conversation for 5-star after 5-star after 5-star. And I know the focus right now, Hog fans want to know what the answer is for next year's roster, but there is a lot to be excited about for the future as well. We're not quite done yet. When we come back after another quick break, Kevin, we're going to talk a little bit of Pro Hogs and NBA Draft Combine beginning today, running through May 18th as well. And then we'll check in on a couple of those Pro Hogs you were referencing. But first, another quick break. All right, back here on the Hog Hoops Report, wrapping up shop. And Kevin, let's go. We've went from high school, we've went to college. Let's head to the pros. Today, the beginning of the NBA Draft Combine. Obviously, Hogs involved in that aplenty. Next week, in Chicago, a lot of guys going to be putting skills to the test. the focus for Hog fans right now is going to be Carter Knox. You're going to be thinking Boogie Fland as well, but obviously Adu Thero involved as well. What do you expect to see over the next week in Chicago from those guys, from the Hogs, as they potentially try to improve draft stock heading into the next couple of months?
Right. 59 picks in the 2-round NBA draft coming up in June. You've got 75 players invited to the combine.
Yep.
And you'll have some carryover from the NBA G League elite camp, which is going on. Nelly Davis is taking part in that. They've already been in competitive play, and he played last night. Didn't have his best moment. I think he had scored 3 points, was 1 of 9 from the field. Not a great game for him. So we'll see if he's one of the handful or so of G League elite players that are invited over to the combine week. So in theory, you could end up with 4 Hogs, but all eyes for Razorback fans right now are on Carter Knox. And everybody I've talked to, before we get to this point of combine and individual team workouts, thinks he's going to end up back at Arkansas. He's not a guy that once he went into the draft was expected to then, okay, now he's in. He's maybe a back-end first-round kind of guy or an early second-round kind of guy. There just hasn't been that kind of chatter. It's more about this is for feedback, go through the process, see what it's going to take to be a first-rounder and go back to Arkansas and do this again in a year. But that's why these combines matter, the measurables, the testing, the agility testing, the interviews with teams. There's competitive stuff. There'll be 5-on-5. All of those things. And all it takes is to get some momentum going by a combination of a really good showing of things when you start adding some of that up. And then you get these individual team workouts start to mount. So then all it takes is one team to have belief in you and turn things around and say, oh, wait a minute. No, you'll be a late first rounder or early second rounder now. And so Hog fans, although they cheering for his success, would like to see him come back. This guy's could be an all SEC kind of guy next year, arguably Arkansas's top returning player if you get him back. So, and of course, NIL, obviously is something that will be dangling a carrot for him if it's some kind of mid-second round grade where, he could get guaranteed money, but maybe he can make more in 1 year at Arkansas than he could in 2 years doing it that way. So you're going to have, maybe a tug of war there. But that's why these opportunities are important, and we're just now getting into it where he could change some of those projections. Boogie Fland probably has slipped a little bit when you look at his draft stock, when you look at mock drafts. Adu Thero slipped initially, and now he's kind of gaining some momentum. You're seeing more and more late first-round projections for him, early second round. And it's kind of like the stock market. Are people expecting that with this, now that the combine's here, he's going to be the kind of guy that tests really, really well, the agility stuff and all that. And he's strong and competitive, and he can maybe go out in some of the competitive stuff and play some bully ball. Is there an idea that they're already building in this idea that he's going to have a good combine? And so you're starting to see some of these projections shift. It's all very interesting and fascinating, but I do think at the end of the day, Boogie Fland and Adu Thero are really focused, hardcore focused on this draft process. And Knox, maybe, maybe that could change for him where, he's all in if the right team or two says, we want you, but maybe it's more still about feedback and trying to have build on something, get some momentum in year 2 at Arkansas and get back in this process in a year. So we'll see what shakes out, Jacob.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating week for a wide variety of reasons. I think, obviously the priority for Razorback fans, what folks are going to be focused on is Carter Knox, and for good reason. We've said it over and over again. 2025, 2026 roster, what's it going to look like? That process of kind of shoring it all up, as we know, doesn't really begin until you know what you have with Carter Knox, because if he makes a surprise decision to enter the draft, that opens up a massive opening, really, for this roster. And Razorback fans, as much as, they want the best for Carter Knox, are obviously hoping, against that potentially. And if he returns, then you have a solidified idea of what you potentially need. And even with Boogie and Adu, it's going to be interesting to see what their stock looks like. And obviously, Fland's got the transfer portal thing in the back pocket if something goes differently or something goes as he doesn't expect. But regardless, an interesting week to come in Chicago for the NBA Draft Combine. Quickly, as we wrap up, I know you're we're excited. You've got a credential approved for Game 5 coming up. A heck of a playoff series, Western Conference semis between the Nuggets and the Thunder. One that I don't know how you felt, Kevin. I didn't think the Thunder would roll by any capacity, but when you looked at the matchup on paper, you said, man, the Nuggets they got maybe the best player in the world in Nikola Jokic, but they're down to about 7 guys. How can they match up against the deepest team in the entire NBA? But it's 2-1 right now. Nuggets, you're going to get to go to Game 5 in Oklahoma City. First of all, how excited are you? And then just the Arkansas connections and the Cal connections are plenty in this series as well.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've had media credentials for regular season games there, and once Oklahoma City won Game 2 on their home court, I knew it would go to Game 5. It fit into my schedule. I'll have a busy week. I'll be in Memphis next weekend for the Nike EYBL session. I'll be there. I'll be covering Cal here in Little Rock. It'd be easy to get to on the road show, and I'll be covering J.J. Andrews' commitment announcement. But before all that happens, I plan on being in Oklahoma City on Tuesday. Now, I got to get over this nasty cold that has me looking on the camera like I've either been crying or just woke up. I look awful, man, and don't feel all that great. After getting over pneumonia a few weeks ago, now I'm back with some crap I probably picked up in Texas last week. But anyway, I digress. Look, Oklahoma City had the big blowout win and probably should have won, could have, would have, should have, the games 1 and 3. Still the youngest team in the NBA. What they've done in the regular season, speaks for itself, record-setting stuff. But look, Denver just 2 years off winning a title. They've got the core of their team from that. And the Joker's a 3-time MVP in the last 4 years, and he is the best player in the world. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is probably going to be the MVP of this regular season. The Western Conference is brutal. All these teams, I mean, it's so even, so close. I'll be a lot more excited about that Tuesday game if Oklahoma City picks up a win today, because the series will be even 2 off. They lose today, I don't know how solemn that atmosphere will be, but I'll bet it'll be pretty jacked, knowing they need to get a win to stay alive. But this has been a great series so far, other than the blowout win Oklahoma City had at home. Isaiah Joe, Jalen Williams has been playing. The big man has been as their third guy in the rotation on their front line. Whether he's playing 12, 14 minutes, he's been giving the Joker fits, man. His physicality, and it's weird. He's like a poor man's Joker because he's such a good passer. He has a great understanding of where everybody is on the floor and how to get to spots. We know that. He did it at Arkansas. And so, you see him having some success guarding a guy who maybe, because he's, again, kind of a minor league version of him, if you want to say it that way, kind of understands what Joker is thinking out there. So some of the chess moves in basketball at that level are fascinating to me.
Exciting to see all the Pro Hogs contributing at the highest level in the NBA playoffs. I'm excited for you and jealous of you that you get to be in the building for Game 5 coming up for that series. But that's all the time we have on this week's Hog Hoops Report. As always, that is Kevin McPherson. I am Jacob Morris. We'll talk to you next week. More Picture Show coming up on the other side of the break.